Hey, welcome. So today we're going to dig into a really fascinating mental puzzle, one that pops up pretty much everywhere, from professional sports all the way to the global economy. Let's get right into it. Have you ever wondered why a strategy that works perfectly for one person can turn into a complete disaster when everyone else starts doing it?
I mean, think about it. You've seen this happen in sports, right? A team goes out and spends a fortune to build this incredible roster of superstars. On paper, they look absolutely unbeatable, a total dream team. But then the season kicks off, and they just never quite click. They end up getting beaten by teams that have way less individual talent, but way more chemistry. So what's going on here?
Well, this really breaks it down. On one hand, yeah, you've got all these amazing individual skills, speed, strength, talent. But a winning team? That's a different beast entirely. It's not just a collection of great players. It needs synergy, coordination, a shared game plan. It turns out that a bunch of brilliant parts doesn't automatically add up to a brilliant whole. And this isn't just a sports thing. It happens all the time in our daily lives. Just imagine you find this amazing secret back road that lets you skip all the highway traffic. For you, it's a game changer. But then, what happens when a navigation app tells every single other driver about your secret shortcut? Yep, that quiet little road suddenly becomes the newest parking lot in town. The solution for one person becomes the problem for everyone.
So, this pattern of thinking, where we just assume that what's true for a single part must also be true for the whole thing, it isn't just some random quirk. It's actually a famous logical error, and it has a name: the fallacy of composition.
To put it simply, the fallacy of composition is the mistake we make when we assume a truth about one piece of a system automatically applies to the entire system. It's a mental shortcut that, more often than not, leads us completely astray.
And to see just how high the stakes can get, let's scale this idea way up. Let's move beyond sports and traffic and talk about something that affects every single one of us: the economy. Now, for any one of us, saving more money is a good idea, right? Of course. When times feel a little uncertain, you cut back on your spending, you build up your savings, and as a result, you become more financially secure. It's the rational, responsible thing to do for yourself. But here's the crucial question. What's the result when it isn't just you? What happens when millions of people, an entire country, all decide to save more and spend less, all at once? Well, that's when we get what economists call the paradox of thrift. Just look at this chart. As individual savings shoot up, look what happens to consumer spending. It plummets. And when that happens, businesses lose customers. They stop investing. They start laying people off. So all of a sudden, the very action that makes one person more secure can make the entire economy less secure. It's a total paradox, and it puts everyone's jobs and savings at risk. And believe me, this isn't just a theory. This exact dynamic, where individual financial prudence accidentally led to a collective economic disaster, is recognized as one of the key factors that made the Great Depression so incredibly severe and so long-lasting. The consequences of this fallacy aren't just economic, though. When we apply this same flawed logic to people, the cost becomes deeply human. It leads to prejudice and very real-world harm. At its very core, this is how a stereotype gets built. It's the fallacy of composition in its most toxic form. We see the actions of a few individuals from a certain group, and then we make that dangerous logical leap, that error, of assuming those actions somehow represent the entire group. And the results are just damaging. An employer sees one older worker struggle with new software and assumes all older workers are bad with tech. A policymaker sees high test scores in one type of school and decides, hey, let's apply that model everywhere, completely ignoring the different needs of other communities. This kind of thinking leads directly to discrimination, bad policy, and just plain unfair judgments. You can see this simple but really dangerous process right here. It starts with just an observation of a small part. That leads to a wrong assumption about the whole, and it ends in a harmful, inaccurate generalization. It's a three-step path from a simple observation to a deeply ingrained prejudice. So how do we fight against such a fundamental flaw in our own thinking? Well, the solution lies in changing our perspective. We have to learn to see the entire system, not just its individual pieces. The antidote, then, is really just awareness. It's about taking that moment to pause before we generalize. It's about recognizing that groups and economies and teams, they're all complex systems with their own rules, where the whole is often very, very different from the sum of its parts. And this is not some abstract skill for academics. Being aware of this fallacy is absolutely crucial in almost every important area of our lives, from making fair social policies and building effective teams to understanding huge issues like climate change and even just making better personal decisions. Which leaves us with one final question to think about. In your work, in your community, maybe even in your own beliefs, where might you be making this mistake? What individual part have you been mistaking for the whole? Because just thinking about that, well, that's the first step towards seeing the bigger picture a whole lot more clearly.